Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Mining Conversation with MsTedy podcast. The podcast is proudly sponsored by Mina, and today we are joined by Ian Chauke, mine manager at the Anglo American mining company. So, we are going to be just talking about how it takes or what it takes to be a mine manager. Before I start, let me remind you to subscribe, like, share, and follow so you do not miss any of our podcast episodes. With that being said, I'd like to welcome you today,
Thank you so much.
all the way from Tabazimbi.
Yes.
I'm so honored. Thank you very much for making it.
No, thank you so much for having me here.
Wonderful. So, before we get into everything else, just take us through your mining journey. Um, from the beginning, did you want to be in mining, or did your career choices changed? And what got you interested in mining?
Okay, well, my mining career is actually a very interesting one and a very funny one. I mean, I grew up in Kagiso, which is a stone throw away distance from the Harmony Gold Mine, which is just around the corner. Snake Park, so you've got Snake Park, and then you got the Harmony Dorankop shaft. So that's where basically I grew up in the vicinity of the mines. I mean, the Harmony mines were just within the vicinity. I went to school in Townview High, which was in Krugersdorp, and I remember quite vividly when I started doing grade 11, I had to do an assignment for geography. And the assignment was basically about labor sending countries like the Mozambicans and the Sothos that are sending labor and Swaziland that are sending labor into South African gold mine, right? You could imagine when growing up in the township back in those days, my parents used to say to me, if you don't go to school, you're going to end up working in the mine. So, that was just basically.
Okay.
So we went to school to avoid working in the mines, right? And fast forward, did I know that I'll be studying and going back to the same mine that they said you should study not to go there, right? So when I did the assignment, so I had to go to Harmony to sort of ask questions about, do a small interview to understand how big is this labor sending country, what is its impact in terms of economy and the economy of the labor sending countries. That was just the assignment back then. You can imagine the high level assignment for a grade 11 student. Fast forward, as I walk into the gate of Harmony Gold in Dorankop, I met a security guard that says, you know what, I want to show you something. This man prophesied in my life that I'll be a mining GM, one of the most powerful mining person ever lived, and he took me through the parking of the managers and the GMs in the parking lot at Dorankop to say, yeah, one day your car will park here. You must remember me that day. Maybe I'll be your driver and I'll drive your car here, young man. He inspired me. He spoke that dream into my life. And before I know it, I was in the University of Johannesburg applying to become a mining engineer. And I got accepted as a mining engineer. Fast forward, I am a mining manager. Did some incredible things. One of the gold mines, started my career in the coal mines in Wheatbank with the I think now it's Glencore from Extractor Coal.
Okay.
And subsequent to that, obviously went and joined Goldfields, where I started my junior as a junior mining engineer career there, and subsequent grew through the ranks and fast forward became a 3-1 appointment, production mine manager for other mining operations. Did a lot of different commodities, which in particular being the gold mine, the coal mine, chrome mining industry, and currently now with PGMs, the platinum group metals. And that's just basically how the career started, and had a very amazing career in the University of Johannesburg, where I was also very actively involved with Mining Forum back in the days as part of the leadership of the Mining Forum structure, in order to sort of grow. And part of my role there was to make sure that I organize mining visit for students that have never been in the mine at all, so that it can sort of, it's not sometimes what you see is better. What you get asked question in an exam, you sort of understand what mining is all about. So that's those papers of the mine visit to sort of create a lot of exposure. Okay. So that got me traveling quite a lot of different kinds of mines to learn the different mining methods. And I got heavily involved in some of the electron mining events, and just as going there to see different machineries. And I think growing up, I just believe that one day I want to own a mining company that will have machines that are manufactured in South Africa, so that the entire value chain benefits everyone in there, right? And that is basically how my mining career started. And fast forward, we are here.
We are here. All right. With that being said, I'm still going to come back to a lot of things that you said, but can you kindly take us through your daily duties as a mine manager? What is it that you do?
Okay, my daily duties are I wake up at 5 o'clock every day, and the first thing that I wait for the guys to send reports, and so the last report comes in at 5:30.
Okay.
So they send a production report. We call it stuff. We've got nicknames for things in our mind. There's a Fanakalo term is stuff. Where's the stuff? Stuff is basically the ore. When you've blasted the ore and you're taking it underground. So in mining Fanakalo, we call it the stuff. So the guys will send the stuff report. And then that preps me up for the meeting to say, is it going to be one of those meetings where we all smile, or is it going to be one of those meetings where we're going to fight because we're going to demand, why couldn't you reach the targets, So I wake up at 5 o'clock, and 5:30, I sit still in my bed reading the messages, take a quick shower, drive down to the mine. It takes me about 20-30 minutes drive to work. My first meeting started at 6:30, and then I have a MENCOM meeting where all the senior managers or senior team sits. And then they sort of report on feedbacks to me to say what is the plan for the week, what is the plan for the day, what are the targets and the KPI that we should expect by close of business, right? And then the follow-up of some of the things, projects that are running concurrently, because I'm responsible for not just only the production side, but there's CapEx projects that are running concurrently, the capital projects that are running concurrently. So which is basically mining infrastructure development that we need to put in place, and at the same time, you need to produce X amount of tons and ounces of platinum that needs to come out. I run an operation that has a plus minus about 1,800 employees. It's a 24-hour operations. We have different, multiple shifts set up. One portion of it being conventional mining being basically the old mining method of doing things, and the other part of the mining side, which is a project mine, is more on mechanized machineries, like typical things like LHDs that are underground and drill rigs that are underground and bolters. So I have a lot of experience that I've gained through South Deep working for golfers, where I learned how to operate some of these LHDs as a junior mining engineer back in those days. So that's basically my day, to make sure that we optimize the machinery that is there, efficiencies, and also trying to cut down on cost, and try to obviously fast track, accelerate some of the projects, so don't sit with scope creeping, right? Because then it sits with a serious budget cost. Yeah, I'm managing a very big budget, which is also a bit stiff because sometimes our profitabilities are not getting to where it's supposed to be. But yeah, we've got a very good team. I think what makes, when I spend time with employees and the rest of the employees in terms of what we have, what we call safety drives, and we do engagement with employees. I always rock up and talk in Fanagalo, and make jokes and tell stories. I think if there's one thing that we have as African is that the ability to tell stories, and you use those stories to sort of encourage people to work safe, to also motivate them to say, hey guys, remember we need to produce, because the stuff is the one that pays our bills, right? And that's just basically what sort of runs my days. But those interventions happen once a week, not every day. Yeah.
Okay, so do you still go down in
the mine? I go underground. I go 3 times. I go 3 times a week.
Okay.
So if I don't go on Monday, I'm gonna be down on Tuesday. And then on Wednesdays, we'll have other management routine meetings that runs the whole day. And then I go to Thursday where I just don't do any meetings at all. I just literally go underground early in the morning. 6 o'clock, we're already on overalls and PPE going down underground with the employees. So there you sit with the employees underground and discuss safety and production and target and other concern teething issues that employees will always have and have concern about, and that's what you get to sort of address. Though the mine is so big that you can't be everywhere, so you visit parts and portions of it. You got. The mine is like set up like it's like we here. There's people that work in Sentin, people that work in Eastgate. So if you go into Eastgate side of underground, you need to go to the Eastgate side. So that's how the teams are spread apart. Very, very spread apart. It's not too close to each other. It's a lot of walking and exercising.
So with your kind of mine, because the one that I went to somewhere in Mpumalanga, it's a coal mine. So when they said we're going underground, I thought we were going to take a shaft and then, we're just walking underground. Okay. So what kind of underground How do you go there?
Okay,
The
so
shaft or walking?
okay. So a shaft basically is any edit that allows you access to underground, right?
Okay.
So the different shafts have headgears. Some are just decline shafts. So decline shaft is the one that you walk into. You just walk in.
Yeah.
It's a decline. So mine as well is a decline, but my decline is much steeper. It's not flat, near flat like the one that you walk to where you could drive in with a car. No, we have what we call bicycles. It's called chair lifts. So it's like, I mean, if you've seen a skiing resort where they climb on top of this thing that goes on a cable car.
Okay, I
So
see
it's
that.
something like that, but it only sits one person. So we call it a chair lift. So but back in the days in Fanakando, so I'm a bicycle. So that's just basically what it is. It's a chair lift. You sit on a chair, you hold on to something, and it takes you all the way down. When you get to a landing point, you just jump out. Easy.
Pretty easy.
Yeah, it's very easy. I mean, we can do it. You can do it in the first day. It's not a big deal.
Okay, I'm hoping that one day I'll get to visit your
Yeah,
mine and
you
just
must.
experience that as well. Because to me, it was just an eye opener when I walk, and you're going underground and you're thinking I'm gonna get into a shaft and then it's gonna take me under, and then the next day I'm just walking in. So that was just an eye opener to me. Go to this different kind of mines, and then we also visited an open cast where you can just see everything on top. So it's very interesting how different mines are. And then just to add to that question, what would you say are the challenges that you deal with as a mine manager?
To tell the quite honest truth is that to me, I don't see any challenges in mining. I think the biggest challenges in mining is leadership issues, right?
Okay.
I think more than anything that is that. I think it's very sad for me to be born in the mining industry at a time where there's so much technology and advancement in the industry as a whole. But if you look at the productivity, if you look at production in the mining industry for the past 100 years, the production was actually quite higher. I don't know, perhaps could it be that the safety requirements were not as hard as it is currently. But I just think that we got all the ideas and the innovation, we got all the brilliant minds that are sitting at the University of Johannesburg, the University of Pretoria, the University of Johannesburg, and a lot of ideas. And I think perhaps it could be because some of the technology that are sort of advancing the industry are very Eurocentric or westernized, right? They're not developed in-house with an understanding of an African, let it be an African affair kind of things where we innovate internally, right? And I think that's where the challenge is. And some of these technologies are facing a lot of bottlenecks where we try to prove them. It's not practical, and obviously, like I said, when my parents said, no, if you don't go to school, you're going to end up in the mines, there are people that did not go to school who have ended up there, right? And I think to get them to understand technology is quite difficult because they don't have the same appreciation that a guy like me would not mind to have a machine that operates with a remote control because I grew up with a PlayStation, right? Or not a PlayStation, I'm just like a TV game,
A TV game,
the Sega
yes.
back in the days. So for me, it makes sense. And I think part of me is to sort of, how do we sort of enable some of this innovation for the future? But currently, as things stand, it's a quite challenging thing and a leadership thing. I mean, one of the reasons that you see the growth in the unions in particular, mines being so unionized, is because we have failed as leaders to sort of find a way to be able to engage with employees, and have bilateral conversation about things that are very teething. And obviously, one of the most teething issues will always be is the issue of the relationship between an employer and an employee is never equitable, right? The finances and money is always going to be the first thing. Why didn't we get paid bonus? The bonus structures that are not done properly, and people not understanding what needs to be taken out from the employees. The expectations are not understood. There's a lot of uncommunicated expectations that creates a lot of dissatisfaction between employees. So once you get that right, sometimes as a leader, to be able to talk to people and be able to address issues head on, you're more likely to have a more stable mind, right? And then I guess the rest of the things about how do you get those teams very motivated in terms of bonuses and in terms of creating other means of benefits. I think that is not a challenge. I think sometimes there are red tapes in terms of some of these decisions, and some of them are high level. You just can't do them on your own. But those that you can do, we are able to do it, and it's actually making a lot of impact. So I think that is just it for me. No any other major challenges.
Okay, thank you for that. Just to also continue our conversation, I had a guest, Rashka, ne? and we were talking about women in mining, basically. And then she was also touching on the challenges that are faced by women in the mining industry. And then she also mentioned the difficulty of retention of women in the mining industry. So I just want to ask you, do you have women in your team of 1,800 people?
Yes, I do have a lot of women in the team in junior level and also in managerial level. Perhaps we could do more, right?
Yeah.
There are, I think, the whole concept of women in mining, to me, is completely different to how I look at it. There is a book, I'm not promoting it. There's a book that I'm writing, co-authoring with different most influential women in the mining industry. It's called Women with the Red Lipsticks, Miners with the Red Lipstick, So because I find that if you take the beauty of why the lipstick was invented and what it means, and you call them miners with a red lipstick, is that you're not taking away that who women are in the industry, right? Yeah. I think we need it because I think there's nothing that can ever be successful without a diversified community, right? Like I said, the industry is about it's about leadership more than it is the complexity of what it is as an industry, but it is more about leadership more than anything else. There is and you walk into the boardroom where we always have meeting in the board. There's a statement that says that we build people that build minds, right? That's basically the idea that my role as a leader is about how do I encourage, motivate my team so that through that motivation, they can mind for me, right? Because I'm the leader, right? So I think that is what I believe in. That how do you build people, inspire people, so that you can build minds? So that I do that every day. That's my life, and what I've done with women, I've had challenges with whereby some of the things and teething issue that sort of happens in the industry is that you sort of then pick up some of the women abuse and the toxicity of some of my employees and how they treat the ladies underground. So sometimes when I used to go underground, at times I would go in underground and there'll be a group of ladies and men, and I say, ladies, can you sit there? I want to talk to the men. And the men will say to me, yeah, but the ladies are part of us. No, we need to now have a men talk, and that men to men, it's a men's conference because I do not want to be so hard on you that your ego get insulted because we're sitting in with the front of the rest of the team. Right. And then I'll have that hard talk with men, that I'm not happy about some of the things that I'm saying. And then when I'm done with it, then we can have more like a more teamwork where everyone is there and we talk about everything, right? Because men, we have egos. Sometimes when you call out certain things in front of ladies, people become very defensive or become very egotistical, that it affects their egos, it bruises their ego. So you need to know how to navigate through that. And I think for me, when I go underground, it's even much easier to lead them because when you go there, you ask them, how's your sons, how are your kids at home? And then they'll tell you the stories about their kids have passed.
Have something to say.
And I have to come with a chocolate because I promised the other lady, man, I must buy, your child is brilliant, I must buy him a chocolate. Or if he's a soccer player, I need to buy the ball. And I need to honor that and buy the ball. And they get so happy. My son, my manager bought you a soccer ball, right? So I think that is very inspiring for me. I see them as sisters and mothers. And I think that's one thing that I've actually drawn the line. Something that will make you laugh. So when I came into the mine for the first time, I stood in front of people with my hand with the 5 fingers. I said, ladies and gentlemen, I am a married man. I am not available, not because I'm trying to say anything. I'm not available. You come into my office, it's an open door policy, but my door will be open, right? If it's a serious issue, I'm going to call the team of women in mining to come and sit in and make them sign a non-disclosure that things that are discussed in the meeting cannot be now be rumors that runs around in the entire operation. Because why? There's the amount of respect that I have that I'm not using my power to gain relationships with ladies in the mine. So that I'm very, very clear about it. I play a very open policy. And yes, I have boundaries when it comes to certain things. And that is very important to me. And I think that's why I gain most of the respect that comes from the mere fact that I don't have stories around, I was dating so-and-so or doing this to so-and-so. So because why? I don't see women at the mine as potential. I see them as potential in terms of them becoming better people for their families. I see them as for who they are. They're married men. I mean, I even tell women, you know what, guys, don't comment Ian Chauke if you're not calling your husband like that, right? It needs to start at home, And yeah, and I mean, and Valentine's Day, I will come in and make a poem for the ladies, and they will love it, in Zulu, and have it in Fanakalo, and I'll be so excited, and I'll be telling them, man, hey guys, please send money at home for Valentine's, even if it's a 200 rands, and I talk about that. And I think for me, what has always worked for me is that I'm very vulnerable. I know how to use the power of vulnerability and storytelling to tell people. I would go to work and say, hey, my wife slept in the other room the other day. Yo, guys, it's tough.
You're that open.
Yeah, I'm that open. And they were like, hey, people would be like, hi, if the big boss is also going through the same problems, then I can, because some men, mining is so stressful that I can imagine some men who can't take that kind of issues might become very abusive because they're bottling up things. Talk about it. I know, quite did much, but I know what to do, And then if the other time I come, guys, I got it right, because why? It is our reality. Sometimes we want to act strong as if our lives are very perfect. Just because I've graduated at UJ and I earn so much money, it doesn't necessarily mean that my life is that perfect. It's not perfect, It is when I come to work, people are looking for a leader from me. They're not looking for a perfect person. My son, when I come back from work, he's not looking for a perfect human being. He's looking for a father. Yeah. That's all he wants from me, right? And I just need to be myself, and also be conscious that how my imperfections do not encroach on other people's rights or other people's thing. And sometimes you need to also be a little bit careful, because some of the things we do, people have traumas, and sometimes some of the things we say sort of triggers some of that trauma, so that when you talk about it, you want people to learn how to express. And by doing that, I've seen so many men come into my office and tell me issues, and I've seen women come to my office and tell me home affairs issues, and we'll sit and I will motivate and guide and counsel. So I play a lot of roles just beside managing. There's a counseling session and a Dr. Phil session that happens behind closed doors, where serious real life issues are happening, and you need to encourage people to be stronger. And and I think to see some of them coming out strong in some of the situation is actually quite amazing.
All right. So in the mining industry, as I said, when I was talking to Rashka, she did mention that retaining of women in mining. Women would come into mining, but we find that they do not stay because of what is happening in the mining industry. So what will it then take for women, or how should the mining industry change so that women come in and then stay for the long run and not just leave maybe after 2 years because of the pressing issues such as GBV and other issues that they go through? So what should then shift within the mining industry in South Africa?
I think, look, if you look at what is happening globally and also locally in terms of if you look at some of the corporate roles in the South African mining industry being filled with women, right? Yeah. It is actually being filled with women. I think that what becomes very problematic, and I've seen that quite often, is that people, when they climb to these hierarchies, they sort of forget where they come from, right? Okay. They sort of forget why are they there, right? And you could see some of the biggest challenges in that affects women in mining in particular is actually other women in leadership position than it is actually men. In most cases are not, right? And also I think that coming to the issue of self-respect, I think sometimes people have their own conventional way of climbing the corporate ladder that sort of not become sustainable as time goes on, right? I think sometimes as a woman, you want to go into the mining industry. Like I've done it. I went to got myself dirty. I was in the coalface. I got myself dirty. So when you talk about anything in the mine, I've done it, right? I could sit underground with a man with 20 years experience and tell him, no, you can't dribble me on this because I know it. I've done it firsthand. And I think that is what has been a benefit for me. So I think some people in their career choices, they've taken the shortcuts to it, and some have taken the long haul. And you can see the women that have taken the long haul actually doing quite well than those ones that have taken the shortcut. And what the mining industry is not so good at, it's not necessarily the issue of retaining. There's this thing where we're trying to tick the compliance checklist so quickly that we actually promote people to failure and not look at the sustainability. Where if we really look at the group of women that we have, we need to have been intentional that, you know what, we have 10x, 20x amount of graduate that are women. How do we see these women becoming GMs in the next 10 years? So now the development start in the kind of exposure that you need to put them in, right? And the power that you need to give them so that they can have a voice in the boardroom, right? And that is where it starts, right? And once it starts, then the grassroots level, it becomes much easier. So what mines are doing now, they're poaching women that are in different mines with money so that they can move around. And the problem with that sometimes that because I grew up in a particular mine, I understand the culture, so it's easier for me as a woman to strive because that mine knows me. I'm that daughter and child, you know. But when you start moving around different cultures, in some cultures the problem might not receive you so well, and now you need to act stronger. And then you're acting stronger, you make mistakes because when you start saying things that you're not supposed to say, then it becomes a leadership issue to you as a person. But I've seen so many amazing women in the industry, the likes of Ononku. Unonku is actually with Impala as a GM at Impala. She's doing quite a lot of a great job. And I mean, even for Mina, I mean, you got Mike King, who's a production manager for one of the Mina operations, is Pine, which is good. I mean, and then you got the likes of Abu Bianca, who are running their own operations, and many other more women that are doing cutting edge ideas and amazing things in the industry. And I mean, like the likes of Dr. Nombasa, with Exaru. I mean, she's a powerhouse. I mean, for me, when I grew up in the mining industry, you will not believe it, that I think when I started in the industry, something that I never mentioned, I used to listen to my favorite CEO, Putuman Tlekos, former CEO of Argon, CEO of MTN back in the days, because I wanted to be a CEO, but not in telecommunication, but in mining. And funny enough, when it comes to the mining side, I used to listen to Nonkulu Legonyambe's Hate, that she's a dynamic woman. And I mean, fast forward now, we have the likes of Nombasa. I mean, those are very inspirational people. I mean, the nurturing part of that leadership actually speaks volumes to us, because some of us men, we grow from a traumas where we don't know our fathers, right? And that trauma in itself. But to have that assurance of seeing some of these women being so influential, and the way they talk and the way they address us as men is so amazing that it has inspired me to be where I am today, right? And I think to that role, we really need that. You know, we really need that, because women are more careful and much safer than men. The risk propensity that they get second by men is so scary in their minds, but yeah, they do things right. Whereas men, we're a bit careless in how we do things in the industry. So yeah.
Okay, so let's get into your activism work in the mining industry. I know there are talks that you do within the industry, and then you also spoke about taking young people into the mines so that they can see what's happening. Just kindly take us through that. What inspired you to start that, and what inspired you to start the talks and.
Okay, very interesting. So when I was in the University of Johannesburg, I used to sell mining T-shirts. I used to design T-shirts for mining, and I thought, you know what? If Nike, sorry to give them a free ad. So I think maybe basically let me say, if the sports brands are able to create fashion for sports people, right, which is a career, it's an industry in itself, right? Olympics and other sports is an industry in itself. We needed to create the same vibe for mining. So I said, like, why can't we create the mining fashion house where it's just mining brands? I started doing that in the early days. And one of the things that I started realizing, some of the money that I made, I used to assist some of the students that didn't have money for food in the res, right? And then that's where the concept was born, called Until We All Mine. Okay. Until We All Mine is that anyone that has decided to make an intention to become a miner should not give up along the way of his role of becoming a miner simply because of other issues, whether financial issues or exclusion, whatever the case might be, because there is many ways to get to become part of the mining industry. So I became a voice. And also I've seen that a lot of very smart graduates in the universities sort of want to move into more consulting space because they don't have they're not that brave enough to take on the challenges that come with the industry. But when they listen to me speak about it, it gives them the hope, And I think the reason that I start to speak more because I've seen a lot of people that reach out to me that they're going through a particular challenge at work and they did not know how to deal with it, right? And I'll sit and advise on a personal level and personal capacity. It's so amazing, and some have managed to navigate through those challenges, and some are still on their way through the process. And I just wanted to be available so that no one quits the industry simply because it's too tough. Right, I just wanted to be the voice that people can talk to and say, "Oh, Ian, we need assistance." And also influence as well. I mean, influence. You want to have the kind of influence that says, the Anglos of this world, the Golfers of the Sibanyas of this world, and the Minas of this world, to say, guys, I need assistance. There's a group of students that are struggling with university fee. Can you, even if it's not a bursary, can you just pay off their school fees so that they can graduate, or can you take them on as interns so that they can complete the process and choose the best amongst them, right? And that is the reason why, because no one is doing that. People are just minding their own business, and no one is a voice to young people. And we are forgetting that part of our national development plan and what mining is to the wealth of this country, the power is in the youth. We are a young country. And then it is more important to be a voice and be very relevant to young people than anything else.
And so the work that you do with young people, are they then motivated to get into mining? Is there interest that is sparked, especially those that are in maybe high school? Do they know what the mining industry is about? Or they just thinking, okay, and just dig for gold, or are they aware to how big the industry is in South Africa?
No, you're asking very it's a very valid question. I don't think there are, because I'm a 2010 and a different breed of young people. I don't know what they call Gen Zs. I'm a 2000. There's a word for that.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a 2000 on another level, And I think that being said is that it's for guys like us to ensure that we evolve the industry that it can be able to accommodate. I'm a 2000. Because why? They will not be able to tolerate some of the things that we tolerate and the conditions that we needed to tolerate. So what is it that we need to do now in order to prepare for, to make the mining industry more comfortable for them to go in there? Because I don't see some of them surviving those industry unless if it's one of those life choices, the hard life choices that they need to choose, because it is a school of hard knocks. The industry is very tough. It's not for boys, if I have to put it in that way, right? And can they do it? Yes, they can do it, because I like their mind. They're very curious. Curiosity is what we need in the industry to change it, right? And that's the curiosity that we need to attract more than anything else. It's not necessarily about whether can we change the complexity, but can we attract that curiosity? And that is the reason why I speak and I make this. And I'm sure with some of the events that some of the mining countries host, career exhibition, they sort of know about mining. But it's also so sad that the industry is sort of left to career exhibitions. And it's so sad that the industry is known through Marikani, what has happened in Marikani. All of a sudden people talk about mining. Yeah. It's so sad that everybody now knows about mines because of Zamazamas. Because then it comes into TV and they're like, oh, what is this thing about Zamazamas and Marikani, right? And it's not known for the right reasons. And I also feel that on a grassroots level, I think that some of the discussions and conversation we had with MQA to say, but why are we so focused on graduates moving forward, but we're not doing anything less? I mean, we are a mining country, right? But the child in primary school doesn't even know about anything about mining. Sure. But perhaps the same story that I was told, that if you don't go to school, you're going to end up in the mine. So the question is that how do we change that? And I think it's about putting the kind of sponsorship. I think the labor-sending communities that have mines around, the kids sort of know these mines because their parents work in the mines, right? But that's how much they know about it. Because we're not preparing them from high school level to say, how do we create the mining managers of the future and the gems of the future? It starts in high school and primary level, and we're not doing that. And I think there's a lot of things work in terms of China and technology in China, that you can buy some of the technologies and put them into primary schools and high school to teach people to know how to operate excavators and the dump trucks, how to fix them, fault finding, the AI capabilities and Internet of Things, and not in terms of how, when they get into the industry, will they be able to operate a remote control dump truck or remote control excavator? Where does it start? It starts now. We need to teach them now, instead of inundating them with PlayStation games that will just make them gamers and they're not making money out of it. To say the least, And I think that's where it starts, and create more exposures for high school learners. Yeah.
So, Mr. Chauke, just to continue with our conversation, I just want us to go to the Mining Qualification Authority. We had them. The CEO was here as well. I spoke to him about the courses that they give to upskill miners and just to bridge the gap of soft skill and hard skill, just make a person or a student ready, work ready for whatever is coming through or whatever job that they're going into. Can you just share with us how the Mining Qualification Authority contributed to your mining career?
Okay, but I want to start and say thanks to the MQA in particular, because I remember working from Doornfontein campus all the way to Parktown. I think Kera was the administrator back then in the days, and I didn't have money to pay for my final year tuition because I've just completed, and I needed to pay the tuition to get my results, and that's just basically being first year, right? And I remember rocking up into the career-wise offices, and MQA came on board to finance my studies and reimbursed me the entire money and finance my studies. And I think that quite have helped me today, because I am where I am today because of the contribution they made in my tuition in particular, and also to place me as a student for exposure into work. They did that, and just some other company sort of adopted me and took over from there, right? So they're doing quite an amazing role as a tripart between the union and what the Mine Health and Safety Act in 1996 was all about, was set up to achieve in terms of how do we upskill, right? So it started off from upskilling people at the labor level, and then fast forward to students who are studying mining in particular. So they're doing quite a lot of work, and I think perhaps moving forward, like they've changed the whole rebranding. They say future mining skills is obviously now where people like me becomes very relevant in terms of now how do we then get this future? What are these future mining skills? Because yes, they've sort of acknowledged the fact that the industry is sort of changing and taking it a completely different shape in terms of many mines coming in as mechanized mining, modernization, and too much technology coming into the industry. So we needed to realize that, we need to do things differently. I think they've done a lot for me, and they've done a lot for many other people, of course, that are not come up and said the MQ has assisted. Amongst many, I come as one, but there's thousands that also have been beneficiaries, right? And I think to all those that have been beneficiaries in particular, it's our role to make sure that we open up the industry to also do the same accommodation and mentorship and assist the MQA in all way possible to ensure that we upskill the industry in particular. And I think maybe what we then need to do is to sort of invest time and energy in terms of improving the model, the modules of MQA in terms of mining, put in more information and more effort. And hopefully build a lot of mock-ups. Some of the mines must just donate their mine spaces for mock-ups so that when they need to expose some of the students, they could be able to expose them. And I also think that there's a disjoint in terms of, I think that if you look at the government in particular, we're not so good in terms of cross-pollinating resources, right? And by what do I mean by that? An IDC or a DTI will find a Women in Mining initiative of a lady that opens a PPE store to sell mining protective gear, who then struggles to get off takes in the industry. But MQA has got a group of students that needs to be intaked into the industry, and they need to have PPE. Why are we not buying from that? Why are we not cross-pollinating from those entrepreneurs, right? So that we are not just only... Also to assist some of those entrepreneurships to say, okay, well, why can't we utilize our resources so that we can scale your base, so that you can have proper employees that are very more skillful, that can grow to make the company to do good? Because sometimes some of these companies, entrepreneurs die along the way and they don't sort of survive. So can't afford the kind of good skills. I think MQA could play a very good role in terms of junior mining houses, and also that the junior mining houses should be willing to sort of accommodate some of the skills, and to ensure that there's some form of a principle that sort of overlooks whether there is success in the implementation of skill that skilled properly, impacted properly, and empowered properly. I think that is perhaps something that they can look at. And I think we're in conversation in trying to assist and trying to make sure that is a success. And I think, the team is actually quite a good team. And the Dr. T, they're doing quite an amazing job, and they're very dynamic. And I have no doubt that there's still a lot that is coming. And one day, the government will look back from a presidential level to say, wow, this is amazing. And we can move this industry forward with all the challenges that it has in particular.
Yes, talking about moving the industry forward, kindly share your thoughts or your words on what do you think it will take in making sure that the South African industry moves forward, continues to grow. I'm asking this because when I had a guest by David Van Wyk, when I said the mining industry contributes about 8% to the GDP, he said, but why 8% though? When it can contribute more, especially if we had to bring back such thing as manufacturing industries, and he spoke of whole lot of things that can be done in order to improve the mining industry. So in your own words, what is it, or what will it take to make sure that the industry does move forward, the industry grows and becomes better, so that even the next generation, when they get into it, they just are getting into a better, bigger industry?
Now, I think, I'm probably not an economist, and if the economist is listening to me, and I've just studied a part of a syllabus and a module of it, right? When you look at the GDP contribution of the industry, I would look in the GDP contribution of the industry as, I don't know how they rebase it or calculate it. Are we looking at the industry itself, or do we also look at the supply chain? Because the supply chain in the mining industry is worth billions of dollars in itself. Yeah. Just the supply chain, not mining alone, the supply chain. Because a company like that supplies explosive in the mine might not be seen as it might be sitting on a chemical industry GDP, but who is the end user of that particular manufacturer is the mines. So it's unfair to, so if we could combine, I'm sure the GDP is quite enormous and quite big. And that being said, and I think that where the issue is, like I said, the grassroots level in terms of development entrepreneurship is not right. Because why? I think there's too many gatekeepers in the industry that are either funding some of the instabilities to make sure that they remain. I mean the industry itself, you can Google it. For many years before I came where I am, if you can Google, there's not the mining industry change hands from the same people. It's recycled around the same people. I think that is what we need to sort of discuss in particular. I think South Africa needs to have the same courage like the Masisas of Botswana, who very boldly say this is the stance on their diamonds, right? And I think that is the kind of leadership that we really need in South Africa. I think there's so many issues in South Africa, in particular to unemployment and other sectors, that no one is giving attention to this big thing. I think that is where the problem is. I think someone must just come out and make that decision to say, take it or leave it. We need to take a big stand. But the problem is that, are we prepared as a country for that overhaul? And that's where the challenge is that if we do then make that decision, do we have the beneficiary system to beneficiate? Do we have the ideas to know what to do with platinum other than what it is being used for, right? Do we have enough jewelry manufacturing companies that are South African made? Are we well marketed abroad? Show me one South African jewelry company that sells jewelry all over the world and is a reputable company. That is what the things that we need to start working on, to say, what about the ecosystem that benefits from the industry? How well established are those, if we ever have to then sort of make a very meaningful impact in the industry in particular? So look at the ecosystem as a whole. And once you can get that right, and then you can plug it properly. And then also the other important thing that I've seen is that I've seen very brilliant graduates that write very amazing articles. And I still say that the richest place in South Africa and some of the solutions that we want are sitting in the archives of the University of Witwatersrand and the University of Johannesburg as research articles because they were just assignment, and they were never really turned into business plan and monetized for money. And I think that's where the problem is. I think maybe we need to go back to this archive and refine some of this assignment and see what impact can they make. I'm sure we can make a lot of impact because the mindset was I'm doing an assignment, not realizing that you're solving something quite big, and we've not monetized on that. It's sitting in an archive. We need to go back on those archives and dig for information. Some solutions were done many years ago, and we just need to find them and plug and play. Yeah.
Mr. Chauke, thank you so much for joining me today and having this conversation about the South African mining industry. Wonderful. So with that being said, thank you so much to Mr. Chauke, who spoke to us about being a mine manager. And then he also did touch on the activism that he does, talking to young people and encouraging them to get into the mining industry. So I would also like to thank my team, which is Musabaloyi, Chwenisitache, and Kamuhelo Malangabi. Also, let me not forget to thank MENA, our sponsor. They're the ones who made this podcast to be possible. And let me also remind you that please do subscribe, share, like, so you make sure that you do not miss any episode. With that being said, thank you so much and goodbye.